From the crappy movie. I don't mean the crappy one, I meant the third one.
That was my favorite.
In other words, the crappy one. And the reason I do is because, the suits didn't work very well. So there were a lot of errant lip flaps that happened. So we had to plug them with something. And so the booth director was just like, do you got anything you could say here? And if you listen to that movie, everybody is like, I'm a turtle and I can't get up. Corey came up with that himself. That's his. I like he who pays the shell must pay. That's what. Yeah.
So I've known James for, 30 plus years. So I'm a good friend of mine. I've worked with him a long time.
Excellent. When you stepped into that role that was already becoming iconic, when they were directing, did you go for any sort of inspiration through what he had done? Or were you just kind of bringing something into the role? Or were you more of like the go here, go there type of direction with it?
I watched the first movie and I thought it was great. I'm one of the people who kind of like the darker, edgier. And then when they did the second movie and I got the part, I thought, hey man, this is great. I can go and have some fun and do some stunts and martial arts and stuff. And as it turned out, the second movie was because of ours, it was more of like a Disney, Nickelodeon kind of thing. And I didn't really get to do anything. All I did was stand around going, what happened to the fighting and stuff? None of that. So it was still good, but it was like, oh, okay. So I didn't really, I guess I was the
Well, that shows a good evil leader when you don't have to get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Know how to delegate.
Yeah.
Know how to delegate. That's your threat.
You kill that one.
Yeah. Tried, but the best moments for Shredder for me is playing the Shredder now is literally I've been doing these cons and the fans are just amazing.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. It really gets to me how happy everyone is to meet the characters that they've grown up with. And it's just, it really, when I started doing these cons, I was a little, apprehensive as to what this whole thing was about. And I was like,
I've seen Galaxy Quest.
Yeah. But after meeting the fans, in all these cons, it's just, I can understand, why these fans are so fantastic.
I think if I can do a quick one.
That's impossible.
We may have worked on this thing, but it's you guys that made it what it is.
Yeah, that's
So, yeah, and in that respect, we're all kind of tied into this thing now. Not just us, not to everybody, because we don't have to promote this thing anymore. It's already done what it's going to do. So Turtles as a phenomenon happened because of you guys. So we
Give yourselves a hand for real. In our franchise, he is the beloved voice of Leonardo, but you have done so many things growing up
with Ricardo Montalban and so on and so forth. Your career alone notwithstanding, you are Leonardo. You're one of the Turtles, and you and Robbie are the only two, he and Robbie are the only two who were in all three of the Ninja Turtle films from the 90s. So that's fantastic. So you got the first movie. Did you audition 3 times for that, or did they know?
What's so kind of interesting is that when Golden Harvest, which is the production company of Ninja Turtles, was shopping it, they went to all the studios, they went to Disney and 20th Century Fox and Universal and Warner Brothers, and that was. Sorry.
He doesn't like Warner Brothers.
Well, and they turned the Turtles down. All right, so they were like, the kind of ugly stepchild production. And so there was this little known company called New Line Cinema who said, well, we'll take a chance with them. And all they were really kind of known for is the Freddy movies, right? Nightmare on Elm Street thing. And so they put the teams together, the production teams, they put the cast together, and I was not part of the cast. I was not Leonardo. They had another Leonardo.
Ew.
And so they started production, and then for some reason or another, that Leonardo was gone. And then what happened was they got another Leonardo. And then for some reason, he was gone.
Dang.
What are you doing to these actors?
I know, right? It was my evil plan. I took a note from Shredder that says, kill that one. And so what happened was I was working on another project, and somebody thankfully recommended me to production. And so they called my agent. They said, do you think Brian Tochi might be interested in doing this thing called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? So they called me up, my agent calls me up and goes, well, there's this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing. And I go, what is that? They go, well, it's these little turtles, they get hit with the U's, they're in the sewers, they start eating pizza, they start growing up, they become these kick-ass karate guys. I said, I think I can do that. And so they hired me, and thank goodness they didn't fire me. And thank goodness they asked me back for the second one, and thank goodness they asked me back for the third one.
Yeah.
Yay!
Right. Well, thanks for being you. Out of the 3 movies,
Yes.
do you have a favorite Leo moment?
I do. Well, you know what? I have a favorite movie of the thing, and it's the first one. And it's the first one because it was the first one. I mean, it laid the foundation, and it laid the foundation for the franchise to be. I just happen to think that the first one was, it was darker. It was more in the vision of, Eastman and Laird. So I just liked everything about it. It was just, and because it was my first Ninja Turtle movie, it was the whole thing. Anyway, to answer the long question. Long answer for a short question.
That's okay. Judith Mode. It's so much fun. I hope you're having fun. The fans have been nonstop this weekend. It's so much love for you guys.
You guys are insane, and we really do love you a lot.
Yes.
We're really glad that you're here. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that this is happening.
Yes.
When we were in the original Ninja Turtles movie, when you first got into that, it had to be fairly unique, right? You were one of the only actors in the film that wasn't in a suit.
Yeah.
What was the atmosphere on the set like for that? It had to be kind of unique. I assume hopefully everybody got along, but
Everybody
what kind
got
of
along great.
communication was there?
We were, it was like movie summer camp. And we worked 6 days a week, and everybody was young. We had energy. We were all very excited. It was a lot of firsts for everybody. It was my first starring role in a film. It was the first time they were using the technology with the creatures. There were so many firsts. It was Steve Barron's first big feature film. Brian Henson, who headed up the picture shop, his dad is Jim Henson. He was in charge of second unit directing. It was his first time doing that on a big film. And it was crazy, and it was so much fun. As a human, one of the things that I learned, I guess, in the first week was, this is about the turtles. This is about trying to get this technology to work consistently, and it had a lot of bugs in it. So we used to have something called MTB, Major Turtle Breakdown. And so it's kind of like when you work with kids and animals, you shoot them out first. And so what that means is when you're shooting, you shoot the master, which is the big picture, then you come in for close-ups, which is called the coverage. You get the kids out, the dogs out, the turtles out, all the people who have big time constraints, and then you sort of go last. And so one of the things that was challenging was a lot of times when that would happen, like you've been in the suit, it was like having the life sucked out of you, and every ounce of fluid in your body was just like, it was nuts. And I know that Ken will talk about that, because what they did, they should have been given awards for that, because it was really, really difficult. So I got it. But what that meant for me was that at the end of the day, they would shoot my stuff fast. And so they would take little mic stands called C-stands, and they put paper plates on them with smiley faces, and then they would tell me which turtle was which. And I would, it's like Mikey's here and Dottie's here, and that's Splinter, and then he's gonna walk through, but there's nobody to walk through, so you just pretend you're walking through. And it was kind of challenging, and I went, how different is this than when you're a little kid and you're making pretend with your friends? It's exactly the same. Those things aren't there when you're little, and they're not there sometimes when you're an adult, and that's where the making believe and pretending is so important. So, there were times I was like, one more take, please, and they're like, breaking down the set. One more, I don't think we got it. And then, it's Hollywood.
Put up the plates! Did you have a favorite moment?
I had so many of them. My first favorite moment was probably when we were in the sewer, and I was waking up and I was meeting Splinter and all the turtles at the same time. Everything that we did at the farmhouse was so much fun. Once Elias came in, it was like we came to this great thing. There were so many moments. It was awesome, and it was really, really hard all at the same time.
That's fantastic.
Some of the most dangerous stunts since he was born.
What was your first job? How old were you when you first started?
Well, I came out kicking.
Yeah. Your mom was ready for that.
Well, I grew up in Northern California, and with my dad training in martial arts and stuff like that. Bruce Lee was my hero growing up as a kid, still is. And we were actually like making 16mm martial arts, like little shorts and movies with my dad and our team prior to getting into Hollywood, with like some of the San Jose State film students and stuff like that. So it was always a dream to get into film and television. But the first movie that I ever worked on was The Last Dragon.
Yes.
Did you see that?
You look that one up.
Yes.
Get the glow. That's awesome. Stepping into the Ninja Turtle world as Donatello, when you got in it, it's not the safest job in the world, I know. The on-set action was there. What was a day in choreography like on that set? Did you plan everything out stunt-wise, then rehearse them?
So one of the best things for me, like working on the first movie, was that the stunt coordinator, Pat Johnson, who I'd known since I was a little kid, competing in martial arts tournaments and things like that, he pretty much gave us the reins to do whatever we wanted to do. So there was 3 other guys from Hong Kong and myself, And so we built that scene, and we're like, okay, this first scene, this is what's gonna happen, and then we would go, our stunt guys, and choreograph stuff. We'd work on it for the day or however long it took us to choreograph that part. And then we would show it to the stunt coordinator, say, hey, this is what we come up with, and he pretty much always just like, all right, awesome, and that was it. So it was awesome because normally when you work on a movie, you're not the guy that gets to say what you're doing, really. The choreographer comes in there and says, okay, do this, do that, and you're like, well, what about this? And you're like, no, I'm not gonna do that, and we're gonna do this and that. So it was really cool because that's the background that I came from, doing live shows and stuff like that. So that was like a super fun time. We would just basically get to choreograph. We, present our choreography to the stunt coordinator. He gave it either a thumbs up, thumbs down, and then we got to move to the next one. But it was a really awesome experience to do that.
That's fantastic. Out of all of them, do you have a favorite Donatello?
Filming for me, the production was awesome. It was the first time. It was like I think 17 or something like that. It was in between my junior and senior year of high school. That we shot the first.
We had different high school lines. I had a really good one.
So it was just amazing to be.
My dad. Dad phone.
You can have this back at the end of class.
Just because I coughed when he was trying to tell a story. Alright, I'll get him back. Texting his friend, call me right when he starts talking. But yeah, it was just an amazing experience, the whole thing. Like she was saying, it was like filming summer camp. It was a really awesome experience. We worked really hard, but we also played really hard and had a lot of fun. And so it was an amazing time. The whole thing really was just like one of the most memorable moments of my whole life. So,
And I think it does show what you put into it in the film itself. Everyone looks like you love what you're doing. It's never a moment of we're playing weird turtles with things. It's all real in that movie universe. And we bought it because of the way you brought it up. It's really cool. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Speaking of that, hello, Raphael himself, Ken Scott, ladies and gentlemen. It was always your kind of dream to be an action hero, right? That was what you had always just kind of grown up wanting to be. Who were your inspirations? Did you have?
Ernie Reyes Jr. was the inspiration. Yeah, when I was a martial artist starting in 1979, and I was just like 12 years old, and it was my sport, the thing I was into. It became more than a sport, it became a whole lifestyle. We used to go to tournaments, that was a big thing. Instead of soccer games and baseball games, you go to karate tournaments. And you read karate magazines. You don't read Sports Illustrated, you read Karate Illustrated and Black Belt Magazine and all that stuff. And you look at the rankings and everything. And when I was growing up and I was a young martial artist, Ernie Reyes Jr. was the guy. He was on all the covers. When you watched the Battle of Atlanta and the finals at night on ESPN, he was in the ring doing demonstrations and stuff. Anyway, and then he shows up in Red Sonja and The Last Dragon and all these action hero movies, and I'm like, and I was a young martial artist. So I looked at Ernie, despite the fact that he was like a prodigy guy, I was like, I want to do what he's doing. And so it was looking at Ernie and the kind of career, what he was doing just as a kind of brother in martial arts. But then I was inspired by Bruce Lee, again, to this day, as a martial artist and philosopher and everything. But Arnold Schwarzenegger I love Jean-Claude Van Damme when he came out. I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme so bad. I used to post for pictures.
Oh my goodness.
I looked at the posters of Lionheart and I was like, okay, I gotta do this.
Can you do the split? Can you do the split?
I could come pretty close. You could put the engine oil on. So yeah, so I look at all, at the time in the 80s and stuff, all the action heroes that were out there, because they were doing, to me, amazing things. There was a believability, even though they were just actors. I was like, oh yeah, they're soldiers and they're fighting and this and that. So all that action stuff appealed to me, and that just drove me on to just try to learn how to be a stuntman and ride motorcycles and all this stuff. And anyway, those were my inspirations to push me forward.
Fantastic. In the Turtle universe, I don't know if everybody knows this, you weren't just Raphael, but also one of the main foot soldiers, a fellow chucker, if you will. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, Rob and I do a scene together where but kind of asynchronously. When they all raid April O'Neil's apartment, Michelangelo goes, "Oh, fellow chucker, eh?" I'm the guy in black doing the nunchucks against Michelangelo.
So you did real work.
I was there. I was sweating.
That was going to be a kind of a if I may again hijack.
What is that?
So Judith, at any time while you were shooting, you had to have been on the set when they were doing some of the action stuff, right?
Yeah.
Were you watching them going, "I'm so glad I'm not in those suits"?
Yes. Yes.
Because it looks hot.
But I was also like, I want to fight.
Yeah.
And so because I had older brothers and I was the little sister, and I took it as good as I got it, and so Let me take that out. Look, in my family, you have to be able to swing a punch and to hang with my brothers. And I'm gonna just stop now.
Yes, ma'am.
No, but when I was finally in the sewer and I got to at least, clunk somebody with a pole, I was like, yes, finally. Because a little bit, I was like, I'm kind of the girl who's not doing anything, and I wouldn't mind just punching somebody, which we know is not the way to make a movie.
Well, you only know that by learning.
No, it was, I remember in an interview, I think it was like People Magazine or something, and they said, well, what about all the violence in the movie? How do you feel about that? And I was like, oh, well, it's a ninja movie. I think they have to do martial arts. And they were like, well, they're karate chopping the baby. Like, not them, but kids were coming home. Oh my God. No, what was happening, they told me a story where, like, kids were coming home and they were karate chopping each other and the baby, and even though they don't do karate, but, and I was like, I guess, and, anyway, it got me fired.
But your legacy continues.
Yes, my
That's all that matters.
Guys, we have just a few more minutes on this one. Does anyone have a question for our guys? If you got a couple people on the side, we've got about 5 or 6 more minutes. We have microphones.
Let's go ahead and start here with that. The YouTube. Guys, thanks so much for putting this together. I'm having so much fun.
That was wearing this thing all day.
Yeah.
And like that's Raphael. Well, drink Mountain Dew. That's probably the best thing you can be drinking.
Yeah, I learned from your book, Ken. Well, how you spent your evenings at Hooters and stuff. But. Anyways, get that book. It's so good. One part of that book you mentioned, and I didn't notice it for 30-something years, that the opening sequence of the first movie, that they're not wearing their lower half.
Yeah.
And I never noticed it. So that's, I guess, testament to how good everything else is, that stuff that's obvious when it's pointed out, you never have seen it. Is there any other parts that made it into the final film? You're like, why'd they put that one in?
I personally can't say that there's anything that I say, why did they put that in? There's one moment in the film that I go, why did they take that out?
Yeah.
And it's a scene where I'm fighting Donatello, and I'm like, I'm going to turn you into turtle soup, but first I'm going to shell you like an oyster. And I filmed this whole thing, and then it got cut out. No, it was in the kitchen.
Okay.
So, so I have asked what happened to that.
Yeah. There's got to be footage somewhere, right?
Release the bear.
I think I found online that like in the German version of the movie, that is actually in there. I could be wrong about the German part, but It's some foreign version has it. So I'm on a quest. So everybody knows.
I think that one also has the alternate ending.
Yes, they alternate it, and where half the turtles disappear to another dimension.
What types of like props and memorabilia did you guys get to keep from the set?
The only thing that I got that I hung on to was on the second movie, the clapper.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That is cool.
It's worth stealing.
You? Ken?
Good question.
Ken, you didn't keep that in?
I kept a pair of the turtle hands
Oh, yeah.
and the size. And the turtle hands disintegrated after a couple of years.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, did you see the head that was on eBay?
I did.
And that's kind of what happened, yeah.
Yeah.
That gnarly head.
Let's bring it to the turtle.
What do we got, my friend? I just wanted to say it's like a dream come true meeting you guys.
Yeah.
So, mainly what I wanted to know is because, to the whole cast, in 2014, they came out with the Ninja Turtles live action with, Megan Fox as Major O'Neil and all stuff. And I just wanted to know, you guys are the original. How did you feel seeing that come to life?
They suck!
I would have been fine with it if they just weren't such dookie, cocky movies. I remember watching the trailer for the first one, and look, the people who worked on it worked really hard. I get it. However, when I saw the Seth Rogen trailer, I didn't have that sort of sick feeling in my stomach that I had when I saw the trailer for the Michael Bay ones. So it's not that the property has moved on without me, it's just that the way the property has moved on without me.
Give it up for the voice of Mondo Gecko, ladies and
Alright, in defense of Michael Bay. You know what, my feeling about it, because a lot of people asked about it in the press when it happened, and I kind of feel like any good franchise has a lot of iterations, and we've had a lot of Batman, we've had a lot of Spider-Man, we've had a lot of Catwoman, we've had a lot of different things, and I sort of felt like the Turtle universe keeps expanding, which is good for the Turtle universe. Some are great, some aren't as great, but it hits different fan bases. And so I felt like it was ultimately a good thing. I haven't seen any of them, but but I was cut out of one of them.
Judith Hogue for president. I just wanted to just add a little thing.
I actually think that the first movies, even though there are people in suits, there was heart to it. I mean, you really felt the love between the characters. And I think that is what really still resonates to this day. The other movies, sadly, just don't hit those emotional notes. You don't feel it. And so I think, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in
What
there.
you guys brought to the heart.
I think the heart. I think
Quickly, I think
This will be our last
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
unfortunately, guys. I do want to interrupt just to say no more questions. I'm very sorry. But hang on. Go ahead.
I think, I saw the Michael Bay movies, and, I think it's, every generation will have their own whatever, right? The people who saw the Michael Bay movies maybe didn't see the first ones. And, I always feel like when I see that and I think, oh man, we did this and that, I feel like that grumpy old man who's like, in my day, we did it this way, and that way, and everybody else sucks. And I was like, well, I know there are people out here who like the Michael Bay stuff and the new stuff, and it's fine, it's great, it's whatever whatever it is.
It is
As long
true
as
that
it's Turtles.
it is true that the Turtles are kind of like James Bond now.
They get
You
to
can pick which turtle, like I got in here I got in here. You know what I mean? I'm a cartoon guy.
It's fun. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please give it up for the amazing